Big corporate landlords buying up single-family homes. Sounds like a problem. It's why President Donald Trump said he wants to ban the practice.
Homes are built for people, not for corporations, and America will not become a nation of renters. We're not going to do that.
But experts say there may not be much immediate relief for families. Here's why. Large institutional investors own upwards of 100 properties, or, by some definitions, 1,000 or more, renting them for a profit. This is a phenomenon that largely began after the 2008 financial crisis.
They really got into the game during the great financial crisis. And starting particularly in 2012, they started really ramping up the activities from virtually zero.
But Tobias Peter of the American Enterprise Institute's Housing Center says these landlords don't own as many homes in the U.S. as you may think.
Institutional investors get a bad rep, but they're not the cause for the housing unaffordability crisis. They own combined about 1% of the single-family housing stock, which is far too little to move the needle on home prices.
There isn't a single definition for institutional investors, so estimates of their hold on housing vary widely. According to the Urban Institute, large investors, which is defined as owning 1,000 or more homes in at least 3 different locations, hold about 3% of the national single-family rental market. In certain markets, like Atlanta and Phoenix, the share can be higher. Before Trump's announcement, Bill Pulte, director of U.S. Federal Housing, said large investors won't be forced to sell the properties they already own. And large institutional investors aren't really buying existing homes right now, says Lori Goodman, a fellow and founder of the Housing Finance Policy Center at the Urban Institute.
It hasn't really made sense for them economically to buy. To the extent they're adding, it is actually through build to rent. That is, they're building homes for the purpose of renting.
Building new homes actually helps in the area of rental affordability.
They bring down prices, they bring down rents because you are adding to supply. And when you talk about affordability, the number one thing you can do to make homes more affordable is to create more of them.
Why are builders selling the homes they build to companies and not to people?
These home builders are really struggling at selling homes, maintaining their margins. So it's much easier to sell 100 units that they've been, that all look cookie cutter to a large institutional investors. It is much harder to sell these homes to an individual.
And the already existing homes large institutional investors do buy tend to be fixer-uppers that most first-time homebuyers can't take on.
I think there's this idea which is mistaken that that these institutional investors take homes away from first-time home buyers. Most of the homes they buy are homes that need a fair amount of repair that most first-time home buyers can't tackle.
People selling fixer-uppers tend to favor large institutional investors since they usually come in with an all-cash offer. And all-cash offers have a higher certainty of closing compared to an individual who needs financing for repairs. Because
it is hard for most people to get financing for home repairs. The denial rate is extremely high. It's on the order of 40% if you apply for a renovation loan.
And partnerships with contractors can mean cheaper renovation and repair costs for large institutional investors.
When I do my own renovations, I am upsold like crazy. When they come in, they know exactly what needs to be done. They get bulk pricing on air conditioning, on paint, on carpeting.
So what happens now? In Trump's executive order, he gives the government 30 days to actually define what a large institutional investor is. He also directs agencies to develop rules that would bar institutional investors from using government-backed financing to purchase single-family homes, but the executive order explicitly excludes build-to-rent developments from those restrictions. Lastly, the executive order promises to deliver legislative recommendations to Congress that could codify changes into law. So will banning large investors from purchasing new single-family properties actually help affordability?
I don't think banning institutional investors will have a huge impact on affordability. By banning these institutional investors, it could actually backfire by builders building fewer homes and exacerbating the housing supply shortage.
All the studies agree is that they're not the major contributor to increases in home prices. Institutional investors choose areas that are growing rapidly, where home prices are apt to go up more. That's part of their acquisition strategy. It will not move the needle at all, in my view.
Plus, just because these homes won't go to institutional investors doesn't necessarily mean they'll go to homeowners.
Could go to a small investor, and it's not clear that that's necessarily better in any way than going to an institutional investor.
Overall, Peter says this executive order gives the impression the government is taking action against institutional investors, but it's limited in scope and, quote, serves more as a warning shot that the administration is paying attention. For PBS News and having just paid her rent, I'm Cecilia Lohman.
Wait just a second, we have one more thing to share.
We want to say a heartfelt thank you for watching and supporting PBS News.
Without you, we simply wouldn't be able to provide the news and the information that you trust.
So thank you from everybody here at PBS News.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.